r/AskReddit by Redical. 911 dispatches of Reddit. What are some of the dumbest calls you've gotten? Guy gets his truck stuck in the mud while out doing donuts at 3 AM and calls for help. Tell him he needs to pay a tow truck to winch him out. Guy gets angry and claims we are leaving him stranded in the dark. Spooky. Tell him we can send an officer out to check on him if the area isn't safe. You all got me ducked up. I'm on probation and you trying to send me back to jail. Tow truck arrives and while trying to winch him out, Guy keeps taking off his clothes and trying to have sex with his girlfriend in the back seat of the truck the driver is working on. Tow driver leaves. Guy calls back and is now very angry that tow driver didn't give his girlfriend a ride home. Since he's gonna fight the cops when they show up, additional officers were sent. I somehow get the feeling this was in Florida. Am I right? I had a woman call 911 to ask if it was legal to sell a baby. I had a guy call to report information on a drug dealer because the dealer had sold him meth instead of coke. The guy said this was an ongoing issue and he had finally had enough. 3 AM. Got a call about a suspicious vehicle outside of her house. I start getting the description and get my officers en route when she says they are leaving. I get the direction they are headed and relay it. I've got 4 officers converging like a net on this guy. Now that I've got a moment, I ask the woman, what exactly did they do? She replies, they just stopped at the stop sign for a moment and then they moved on. Imagine driving home from work and suddenly seeing 4 officers chasing after you. Oh, I know. We had a guy once who reported his car stolen. Later he found the car. An acquaintance had taken it, but he neglected to call the police to report the vehicle recovered. Later he was pulled out at gunpoint for driving a stolen vehicle. This is more common than you might imagine. Repo companies in the area report their repots to us, just in case the owner decides to try and report the car stolen. I started my shift that day logging several. When one of the owners calls in, we take his info, confirm it matches, and let him know it was reported as repossessed and to contact his finance company. A little while later, he calls 911 again to let us know that he paid it up to date and the address they gave him to pick up the car didn't exist, so he wanted to report it stolen. We again refer him to his finance company. A few hours later, he called 911 again. He checked his onboard GPS signal and saw it listed his car in another city, the next state over, so he had driven there and searched the city, but didn't find it, so it had to be stolen. We again explain it was repoed and to continue speaking with his financial institution. The day carries on, and we eventually get to the end of the shift, as we are wrapping everything up for our shift up before night shift gets in. He calls 911 again. He found the tow yard his car was stored at, but it was closed for the night. He needed us to open it for him so he could claim his car. We explained that it was a private business and the car wasn't stolen, so we can't just bust in and take his car. He will have to claim the car once they are open in the morning. He was so moved by our logic that he decided to try reporting it as stolen again. Edit. My biggest comment ever. I should have asked for gold. I actually had the finance company over a barrel in a similar situation. You see, I had in fact paid on time, early in fact. Further, I had always paid before the due date and paid additional money to pay it off sooner. Joe Blow's towing company gets a call that I'm a no pay. I come out to go to work, but no car. Immediate reaction was someone stole my car. So I dial up 911. We're a very small town, so the cop who shows knows me. We fill everything out and he asks me what happened to my yard. Turns out when the tow truck snuck in they gouged a deep ass furrow in my freshly seeded and growing yard. This gets documented as well. I realize that the tire treads are dualies. The life goes on. I call the finance company, immediately ask for the regional manager. After some next level self-control I manage to sound only marginally like I'm going to blow a gasket. They pull my account, see nothing amiss, until I ask why my car has been repossessed. I explained that if my car was still there by lunchtime I'd be pressing charges on only the finance company. Tow dudes were just fulfilling their contract. They are going to be calling me back shortly. 10 minutes later I received a phone call. This is Mr. Money Grubbing, who is the VP of said finance company. You Matthew Tiger 56. We did bad. Someone issued a repossession order for your vehicle, but I can see that clearly that was an error. Since this must be a terrible inconvenience for you, we'll have your car returned before noon today. But you stole my property. How about we just take care of the last $1,200 you owe? Okay. Get it to me in writing with the car and I'll be in to pick up my title. Served them right. Oh man. I wish you had been around whenever my car got erroneously repossessed. My loan was through a small credit union who still required that I send in paper checks, and they were pretty inconsistent with deposit dates. So I didn't realize that my most recent check hadn't gone through until I headed to work at 5 AM and my car was not there. Many phone calls with the credit union later. They found the check in a pile on the desk of a clerk who had quit extremely abruptly. I still had to pay the tow company and everything to get my car back, and wire transfer them the payment before they even looked into the missing check. And then they barely reimbursed me for the cost of the tow. I had to harass them quite a lot before they would even consider it. Some lady wanted the fire department to come burn her house down because she thought a demon lived in it. I sent paramedics and police to check on her, but I told her we'd be happy to burn her house down in a controlled training capacity if she wanted to donate it. But there was a lot of paperwork to get that started. I suspect her neighbors may have issues with this plan. Also, I would gladly open a beer and watch my neighbor's house burn down. So long as it got the demon out, of course. Edit. Thanks for the stranger. Kind gold. I'm super drunk and I got run over by a sled. Now in northern Alberta typically this would mean a snowmobile and potentially life-threatening injuries. No. Number. His kid hit his ankle bone with a wooden toboggan. Didn't even have a bruise. Edit. Spelling. Down south where I am living now, a toboggan is a winter hat. As a northerner, I spent a good while being horribly confused. This information makes this story slightly funnier. See, I read that and wonder how the word came to mean a hat in the south. I'm from the Midwest and my mom is from the East Coast and we've always used toboggan to refer to a sled. I just asked my Californian husband and he said, wait, do you mean the hat or the sled? I'm dying. Edit. Apparently in the 20s they began to refer to beanies as a toboggan cap, and it got shortened to toboggan. My husband used to dispatch before he was old enough to go to the police academy. We lived in a small town, ranked third most dangerous in our state. Lots and lots of drug use. There was a woman who was honestly crazy. I don't know if she had mental problems before the drugs or if the drugs fried her brain, but she was a regular caller. Some of her calls she called and said that she was raped. After coaxing some info out of her, she said she knew who did it. It was her stuffed bear. Another time she called to report a break-in because she fell asleep with her blanket wrapped around her, but when she woke up it was bundled at her feet. She called one summer night, routinely got over 115 degrees in the summer, and said that she had walked 3 miles from her apartment and needed a ride back because she was barefoot and her feet hurt. He asked her where her shoes were and she said she was carrying them. She walked 3 miles and didn't think to put them on. Another call wasn't stupid but still stuck with me. It was a domestic violence call, and when he asked what was going on, the woman yelled he threw a piping hot chicken pot pie at me. Something about her attention to detail I just thought was funny in an unfunny situation. I cannot imagine the level of anger that would push someone to ruin a perfectly good chicken pot pie. Middle of night shift. Get a report of a guy trying to ride on a moose. Officer attends. There is indeed a male trying to ride said moose. Male is wearing a high-vis vest and a helmet, which his girlfriend made him put on. For safety reasons, of course. I'm dying for more info. Was it a wild moose? Do wild moose let random people climb on them? If not, who keeps a tame moose standing around? And apparently this required planning to find a tame moose and have the vest and helmet ready. Really hope OP answers. I saw my first moose a few years ago after moving to Canada. The thing is an absolute unit. Much larger and wilder looking than I had thought. The prospect of anyone mounting a moose seems insane. Every Thanksgiving you'll always get the person who calls because they don't know how long to cook a turkey. Never fails. Every Thanksgiving someone always puts a frozen turkey in a deep fryer, usually in a trailer home, and a fire surprisingly occurs. People who have warrants on themselves love calling to complain and ask to see the police in person for a dispute. They don't seem to remember we look up everyone in the dispute, not just the accused. Wait, someone who has a warrant out for their arrest will call the police to come to them. Am I reading that right? Yep, for an unrelated query. Say I was a murderer wanted for arrest who was calling in about someone attacking them with a knife. Yesterday morning was a cold one in my area. Icy conditions on the roads, widespread crashes, all the good stuff. Lady calls in and complains about a suspicious substance on the road that made her car slip. She was driving too fast to see what it was but insisted that something strange was afoot. I had a lady call for a suspicious box she saw. She said she couldn't get a good description of it because she was driving by so fast. It was a speed trap. Sounds like San Francisco. Or maybe lol. Ice? Like the thing you put in your drink? Why would you put ice on the road? Are you sure? SKRRRT. Once my dad got a call from the 911 dispatch. At first he was really confused because he didn't call them in the first place. They asked, "So do you have a daughter?" "Yes." "Why?" "Well, she just called and claimed you broke her heart. Apparently my sister got in trouble when she was about 5 or 6 and called 911 claiming my daddy broke my heart." She hung up in embarrassment after the dispatcher began laughing. Edit. I like this formatting better. I tell you what though. His heart was probably racing for the few moments after "Do you have a daughter?" and before they revealed why they called. Not anymore. I've been a dispatcher for about 7 years now in a medium-sized county in Florida. Every year on the 4th of July and New Year's we get calls about gunshots. Every single time the caller is perfectly convinced they're gunshots and couldn't possibly be fireworks. They'll say they hear automatic weapons, or my personal favorite, rapid-fire shotguns. And every single time a deputy goes out to investigate, it turns out to be the unlikely culprit of fireworks. I had one woman call 911 to tell me she found a cell phone on the ground. That's it. Irate elderly male calls 911 while standing in the sheriff's office lobby to report the clerk not being helpful. When I told him that's not something you use a 911 line for, he went apeshit, going as far as threatening to break into the office and shoot me. He was subsequently arrested. Male was arrested for domestic battery, called 911 from the backseat of the patrol car and stated he was being unlawfully imprisoned. When I told him the only thing I could do for him was to send him more deputies, he said, "No thanks," and hung up. He then proceeded to call 3 more times looking for a different answer. We told the deputies on scene. They took his phone away and added a charge of misuse of 911. Had a woman call in stating she accidentally took too much melatonin. She started getting hysterical when she felt the effects of her overdose. She was getting sleepy. Sounds like shooting someone while fireworks go off nearby is the perfect way to get away with murder. Honestly, I think if you're going to murder someone you don't know, it's quite easy to get away with it. It's quite scary. A lady ran over herself with her own car. She called to let us know she was okay. This was fall of 2012. Hope she's up, still doing okay. Edit. Damn. That blew up. For those wondering, this was in CA. The lady was calm, laughed nervously, embarrassed a couple times, absolutely refused any type of response, even quiet from the FD, and didn't say how it happened. We took down her info, gave the typical safety admonishment, told her to call back if she needed to. I hope she's doing well, too, but a part of me knows she probably isn't. Are any of us okay? Thanks for watching this Reddical video. Subscribe for the best Reddit videos straight to your feed 3 times a day.